there are 219 Republicans, so they're in the majority, and 213 Democrats. There are 2 Democrat seats vacant and 1 Republican seat vacant. Democrat was just recently elected or appointed from Virginia. So up until recently, there was 3 Democrat seats vacant. So there are 435 seats all total. Representatives are elected every 2 years. So the next election is November 2026. The House has 21 committees with jurisdiction over legislation and oversight, and each committee has a chair and a ranking member. And again, the chair is from the majority and the ranking member is from the minority. In the House of Representatives, the Veterans Affairs Committees, which is the committee that we deal with most of the time, has 5 subcommittees. You have the Disability Assistance and Memorial Affairs, or DAMA Committee, the Economic Opportunity, or EO Committee, the Health Subcommittee, the Oversight and Investigations Subcommittee, and the TechMod Subcommittee. So DAMA is related to disability benefits and memorial affairs, such as like toxic exposure or DIC. EO is like the Transition Assistance Program, or VR&E, and these are the subcommittees that Shane and I mostly focus on. Health is VHA and their programs, and so Naomi and Shamala, that's their portfolio. And the other 2 subcommittees, which are pretty self-explanatory, they can be assigned to either of us at any given time. Legislation can also be submitted to more than 1 subcommittee. So it can be, so if, say, you have legislation that would hypothetically give an increase to SMC, but you needed to add a program to AI in order to make that happen, it would be sent to DAMA and TechMod for debate. Currently, the HVAC chairman and minority leader are Mike Bost from Illinois and Mark Takano from California. Not pictured is the DAMA subcommittee chair, who is Morgan Luttrell from Texas, and the ranking member is Morgan McGarvey from Kentucky. The EO chair is Derek Van Orden from Wisconsin, and the ranking member is Chris Pappas from New Hampshire. The health chair is Marionette Miller Meeks from Iowa, and the ranking member is Julia Brownlee from California. The O&I chair is Jen Kiggins from Virginia, and the ranking member is Delia Ramirez from Illinois. TechMod chair is Tom Barrett from Michigan, and the ranking member is Nikki Budzinski from Illinois. Now, the next chamber is the Senate. The Senate has 20 committees, and each committee also has a chair and ranking member, set up the same way as the House. They do not have any subcommittees. Currently, the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee chairman is Jerry Moran from Kansas, and Richard Dick Blumenthal from Connecticut. Hold on a second. So now that we know what the chambers are and how they're composed, let's see how they operate, right? The 119th Congress started in January 2025 and will end in December 2026. Congress actually operates in 2-year terms. So we're currently in the first session of the 119th Congress, and the second session starts in January of 2026. Any bills introduced during either session of the 119th Congress have until December 2026 to be acted on when Congress adjourns. Otherwise, all legislation presented will die and will have to be reintroduced in the 120th Congress. How a bill becomes law. All laws begin as bills and must be approved by Congress and the president before they become law. They begin as ideas, and these ideas, for our purposes, can come from DAV resolutions or from you sending us ideas. And then they become bills when it's sent to their congressman, and they draw it up as legislation, and then from there they turn it into bills. Then the bill is proposed, right? Only a member of Congress can introduce legislation. And because only a member of Congress can turn your idea into a bill, when they need clarification of your intent, they'll reach out to us here on the Ledge team through their staff members to ask us our thoughts for our support. We use your voice through DAV resolutions to give us meaningful input to the staffers, so that when the bills are written, your voice is heard, right? We have a pretty good track record of getting your voice put in legislation through the resolution process. Even though the bills don't always get passed, it's not through a lack of effort on everybody's part. We do ask, as advocates, you keep promoting the DAV can. That is still one of our biggest and best outlets of getting your voice out there. So act now. All right. Once a bill is submitted, it's assigned the appropriate number, either HR or S, and then it is sent to one or more of the committees of jurisdiction. Once the bill is at committee or subcommittee, they request reports from government agencies, or they can hold hearings, so experts and interested parties have an opportunity to offer testimony regarding the issue or make revisions to the bill or suggestions to revise the bill. When hearings are announced by these committees, we may reach out to that committee and ask if we can provide testimony. We may be invited to provide testimony, or we may write a statement that gets entered into the congressional record. Committees revise legislation by modifying it with amendments. They make recommendations to pass the bill, and then they mark up the bill and release it to the full chamber. Marking up the bill is when they change text or adopt amendments, but until that point, all recommendations and amendments are really just suggestions. So it's not until the markup that it becomes important. Once all that's done, the committee has approved it, and it gets reported to the floor, where it may be debated, or it may just get voted on. The more ayes, if there are more ayes than nays, then it gets passed, and then it gets sent to the Senate. All right. Once in the Senate, it goes through a lot of the same steps that it did in the House. It'll go to committee and do all of those things. It goes through the same process. Now, when either chamber approves a bill that was passed by the other chamber, the two chambers have to resolve any differences between languages until they can come to an agreement on how to send it to the president. An example here is it's a pretty popular bill, is the Major Richard Starr Act, right? There's a House version and a Senate version, but in order to get this bill to the president, they have to sit down, or they would have to make they would have to settle any differences in the bills through negotiation, and then once it's agreed on, then it can go to the president. I'll show you a little bit more about that in the web page. Then the bill is sent to the president, right? Excuse me. When it's sent to the president, first thing, the agreed upon bill, once it's passed, is sent, and if he signs it, the bill becomes public law, right? Most recently for us, that happened for the ACES Act and the Pro-Vets Act, which are now public law, right? Second thing that can happen when it's sent to the president is he can veto it. If he vetoes it, it requires a 2/3 majority of the House and the Senate to override this veto. All right. It's difficult to overturn a veto, and it's very rare. In the history of the United States, there have been over 2,600 vetoes. only a little over 100 were successfully overturned for about a 4% success rate. And then third, when it reaches the president, if he does nothing and Congress is in session, it becomes law. But if Congress is not in session, it's called a pocket veto and the bill will die. If the bill passes both the House and Senate and is approved by the president, or a presidential veto has been overridden, it becomes a law. It becomes a law and should be enforced. And I say should because if all laws were enforced, we wouldn't have unaccredited predatory claims operators out there. All right? So after all that, the process by which a bill becomes law very rarely goes through this very logical sequence of events. There's always a lot of negotiating. There's always a lot of, things that go on behind the scenes. Fred, I see you smiling because I know this is fact. So just keep that in mind. This was this is a very brief overview of how this really works. But next I want to show you how you can help, right? Meet with your own members of Congress. Talk to them about our resolutions. Talk to them about your ideas. Reach out to us and ask us if we have any ideas and that you can bring to your members of Congress. Watch for the can alerts. Again, that's huge. That's a big outlet for the DAV. And then if you do have an idea of a resolution, or if you drop a resolution, make sure you send it to us to resolutions@dav.org. And then, if you have any questions or if you have any ideas about a resolution, reach out to us. Next, I'm going to show you a little practical exercise in the DAV website on how you can actually see how all this stuff works just by going to our DAV website. So can everybody see the homepage? Fred, you shouldn't be moving your head up and down. You should be driving.
Shouldn't be watching it if you're driving.
All right. So once you're on the homepage.
By the way, I parked.
You parked, okay. So once you get here, go to Get Involved and Advocate on Legislation. It'll bring you to this page, this is your area here. You have the Commanders Action Network here. You can either click this button or this button. I like this one. This will bring you to the DAV CAN, I guess you could call it, home page. There's a couple of things you can do on this page, but the thing I like to do most is come down here and watch Scott Hope lose his ever-loving mind over predatory claims processors. So I highly recommend it. It's a great minute and a half of your time. If you say you missed a CAN letter, you missed a campaign letter out there. From this site, if you click Act Now, it'll take you to all of these, and if you click right, it will resend it for you. So go in here periodically and see if you missed one. If you have, go back in there and fill that gap by writing sending that letter out to your congressman. But also on this page, and this is the important piece that goes along with the presentation. On here, there's this button up here called DAV Supported Legislation. If you click that, this will bring up all of the bills or all of the legislation that we support. If you see down here, there's 249 pieces of legislation that we support as DAV. If you go to these, as you hover over these things, it'll tell you what they are. So you got the Veterans Administration Backlog Accountability Act. It falls under Appeals, Benefits, and Claims and Benefits. This is the day it was introduced. We support it. The AI summary gives you kind of like a long summary of what this bill does. The official summary is a little bit shorter. So if you don't have time to read the whole thing, this will give you an even more condensed version of what it does. It tells you who sponsored it or who wrote it. And then if you come down here and you grab the bar and slide over, it'll tell you who the co-sponsor is, and it will also bring you to an external link. The external link brings you right to congress.gov, and it'll tell you exactly where this piece of legislation is. It's been introduced. You have the text. It'll tell you the actions, the titles, the amendments, co-sponsors, and everything you need to know about this bill. I'm going to show you something that has to do with the process that we just talked about. I'm going to go through how this can help you see how that process works. One of the features in here is it filters. All right, there are filters in here. So if you go to the top here and you see the little arrow, it brings over the little filter button. Click the filter button, and then you can filter this. If you know the bill number, you can put the bill number in there. If however, and it'll bring it up. But for our purposes, I'm going to type in ACES, and it'll bring up all of the bills that have ACES in it. All right. Now, if you look at this, you'll see that there's a bill here called the ACES Act, and has an HR number and an S number. So this was one of those bills, kind of like the Major Richard Starr Act, that was written in both chambers of the House. If you come over here, we'll start with the ACES Act, HR 530, and click the external link. You'll see that this particular bill is in the past House. That's where it is in the process. So we know that this bill is law. So that's why I chose this, but this is how you see how it's going through the process.
So Joe,
Yes.
go back to your last page and then click on the Senate version.
I will. I'm going to get there.
Okay.
So I just want to highlight this part of it, Joy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you go to the text, it'll show you the text of the bill. You can read that. But in the Actions tab, it'll show you that it was introduced to the House. It was considered. They debated it in May. But the bottom, when you get to the top here, it says the bill was amended and agreed upon by yeas and nays. And then they reconsidered it, and then they sent it to the Senate. Okay, so now this bill was sent to the Senate. So then you go to the Senate bill, and you can see by the actions that they did very similar actions. Their version of the bill, they read it twice. It went to the committee. They proposed amendments to it. And then it was passed with unanimous consent. And then they sent their version back to the House, where Chairman Boss moved to suspend the rules. It was debated in the House, and then the motion to reconsider was laid on the table, and it was agreed to without objection. So that means that the Senate's version passed the House, and then it was presented to the president and became a public law. So that's how you can use this website to see how these bills get moved through the legislative process. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Good presentation.
Oh, thank you. All right, so now let us go back.
One thing, Joe, I'm sorry, could you go back again? A lot of you often ask, is my member a co-sponsor? So if you go back to that last page.
The other last page.
Mhm.
I'm getting there. I gotta go through the whole thing here. So yeah, okay. Do you want me to, do I need to go back to the Senate bills?
You can pick on any one of them. You could just pick on any bill there and open the external link. So if you're interested in finding out if who are the co-sponsors of the bill, you click right there and then below. So that's another, nice fact to quick look up. Hey, and the bills that we post on this website generally are ones that are moving through the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. Some of them we have a resolution on, or some, on occasion, in support of or in opposition. But you'll be able then to also look if your member is a co-sponsor of that particular bill.
Does
And
anybody?
also, yeah. And it also has the related bill function. So at the very end tab there, if there's a House or Senate version of the bill, it'll often, most likely be listed there. So then you can get,
So this, yeah.
yeah.
This is the ACES bill. The related, and that's the Senate version, and this will tell you what the House version is.
Yeah. So it's pretty straightforward on congress.gov, and, you can find out. And sometimes they'll have a summary of the bill. It takes a little while once the bill is introduced, but it'll give this brief little summary, or it'll say, it's still being worked on. So you can get sort of an idea what the bill might be about.
Hello?
Hey,
Hey,
what's up?
what do you mean you don't have access?
So hopefully that is helpful for you. And again, this is a quick way to look if you have a chapter or department meeting and you would like to, look at the bills that, DAV supports. As some people print off the list of, all the bill titles that, because right next to the bill number there is DAV's stance on the board, if we've taken a support position or oppose. Yep. And again, most of these that you will see posted on here, DAV has a resolution that corresponds with the bill.
Yeah, if you want, if that's not on this website, but if you want to know what that is, just reach out to us. We'll tell you.
Yeah. And for the next webinar, we're going to have Shamala is going to go over, again, DAV's website and our resources page for everyone. So she'll just navigate through it so you can kind of see all the things that you can look up related to, our resolutions. And we do have the resolutions posted. I know we did a webinar on those right after convention. And we at least have the bill number and the title posted on our website. But if you need a resolution while the resolution book is going through proofing and all of that, and should be posted, we're hoping by next month for sure. It's in the final process of laying that all out. And once we get it, we'll replace the existing, with the just as the title and the bill number with the entire resolution book, so you can look at a resolution as it was passed. But if in the meantime you need to look up a resolution, just as Joe said, just give us a call, let us know, and we can forward it to you or give you a copy of the resolution that was considered at convention.
You got a question now?
You're on, oh, there you go, Al. You're still on mute, Al.
You're on mute, Al.
Okay, I thought I had taken it off mute. Joe, just a quick one. On the sponsor list and the co-sponsor list, there's a filter. And if you want to take a shortcut as to click on the sponsor list, on the filter, there's a drop-down box. If you want to find out how your legislators are doing in your state, like type in the name Baldwin, and it'll give you the bills that she's introduced. And I don't know if you just did that or not, or the coast.
I took the filter for the ACES Act off. So type in Baldwin.
Right, and it'll tell you the bills that she's introduced, and maybe not. All right, type in co-sponsor and hit the filter there and type in Baldwin, and or I'll. Okay, that's even better. Van Orden's bills. Those are the bills that he's introduced. So that's a shortcut to find out how your legislators are doing in the state as far as either introducing the DAV bills that we support, or if they're co-sponsoring them. Rather than go through the long list to find out on the that used to be on the Congress doc,
Right.
whatever it is thing. That's just a shortcut. If anyone's interested in how their legislators are doing, you can hit the filters on the sponsor list or co-sponsor list, and it'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we also have them on there, I believe, it might not be this version, but by category of healthcare benefits, different
Oh, yeah.
ways to, scroll down to the bill that, if it's a healthcare bill or a benefits bill.
Joy, this
Yeah.
is Fred. I don't have the ability to raise my hand, and
Okay.
I wanted to continue on Al's point here, because once you've sorted this by your person, and I do this once a month for each of our congressional folks in the state. Once you have those sorted, there's that download button right there at the top. You can download that, and it comes up as an Excel spreadsheet, and I save that, and then that way I know exactly what my congressional folks have sponsored, co-sponsored, and I save those lists, and I've got them in my system. So if I'm talking to their offices, first I thank them for sponsoring whatever bill, and then I try to talk them into sponsoring more. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, really important point, Fred, is if you are having those meetings back at home with a member, it's really good for you to do your due diligence first and make sure the group that's going up there knows what bills the member has introduced, what DAV's position is on those bills, and legislation that they do support. That's one of our critical policy goals. And we always try to make sure we thank them. I mean, we do that when we have meetings on the Hill. We look up, we make sure we make a point of thanking them for legislation they've introduced, especially if it's one of our critical policy goals. And then, the resolution book as well, if you have specific ideas, sometimes they'll ask you when you have a meeting with your member, both in the House or the Senate, what can we do for you? Is there something we can do for DAV? And if there's anything in our resolution book is obviously our critical policy goals are first and foremost, but anything in our resolution book is fair game, and they often like to have an opportunity to look through that, their staff, and say, hey, this would make a great bill. Again, that idea coming from them. So as you can see, we have lots of legislation because we have lots of resolutions, and very pleased that this Congress so far, we've really exceeded sort of the usual on DAV supported legislation because we have resolutions on, you know, a number of these bills that have been introduced.
Joy, it's Alec. And
Mhm.
just to expand a little bit on what Fred said, and it's excellent, and that's what you always try to do. Open a meeting with a positive before you ask what you're looking for. That's really important to do that. But another way to make yourself a resource with the office is particularly when we testify before a committee, I personally will forward that testimony to all the offices, to the person in the offices. Like if we're testifying on a House VA committee or a subcommittee, I will forward that testimony to the person in the House of Representative offices in Wisconsin. That way they know our position on bills. And again, you want to make yourself a resource. If they have any questions whatsoever on a bill, tell them to feel free to call you. If we don't have an answer, we will contact National and find out what our position or what we feel about a bill. So it's just another way of, you want to make yourself a resource, and that's another way to do it, is consider forwarding the testimony to the proper office on the House side if we're testifying, or on the Senate side. Send the testimony to either the House or the Senate office, and that way they'll know what our positions are on current legislation.
Yep. And in our testimony, we do generally put, you know, a summary of what the bill does, the main provisions in there, and then we'll put DAV supports based on this particular resolution. So it'll be right in there for a legislative hearing. Any other questions about at least this website? And again, Joe also showed you the DAV CAN alerts, the Commanders Action Network alerts that are posted as well. And those, you know,
You want me to go back to that?
if you want to, that's fine. I know certain people have asked, you know, is there any way that we could indicate, but these go in the order that they've been posted, I believe, right? At the top would be the most recent one. And I think we just, sent one, the Strive Act out today. And the nice thing, if you click on the Strive Act, it will tell you how many people have, you know, if you're signed up for DAV CAN, which I hope all of our BBTLs are, it will tell you at the top how many people have actions have taken already, 4,900, almost 5,000 emails have been sent. And that just went out this morning. So we get, again, great response on those, and we try and provide you a nice summary on the bill on the left-hand side to just tell you what the bill is all about. And then the letter corresponds, you know, is very similar, but it's all addressed. But you can, again, go in there and edit those messages if there's a personal point of order that you want to make, a more personalized note, because that bill really affects you specifically and you have some sort of example that you want to share. It also allows you to do that.
Did you see how I did that? I clicked that little pencil down at the bottom. Everybody see that? So at the bottom, there's this little pencil looking thing.
To edit,
You can click on that and then you can go in here and change it.
Leslie, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I have a question. It concerns, and we're talking about the CAN network. Is there a way to get the metrics or how many people like in my state are accessing or checking off a box? Is there a special place on the website I can go, or how does that work?
So we have the ability on our side to do that. And during the department conventions, Jeanette King from our team or Lisa, but generally Jeanette pulls those all together. And we put that information out to give you a snapshot of how many members are signed up in your state for the Commanders Action Network, and how many, more importantly, how many are active users. Because we can tell just because you sign up, we can also see if you have taken action, what the majority of people have taken action on. Now, we don't send those out. There's not a website you can go in and look at that. But again, we try to provide that because it does require us to do, a template and put all that information in there and that data for each department. But we do share that with the department and so that you have a kind of an idea for the year at that point when department conventions happen right prior to national convention, where you stand. But if there's, something specific, sometime you really need, you're doing a special DAV CAN drive or something, and you want to know, you can make a request and we will try to honor those. Again, it's a little bit of a data collection point for us, but we can, we can see overall. And the one thing I think that's most important is to share with your members, because it's often, okay, you might have 1,000 members that are signed up for DAV CAN in the state, but only 250 are active users. So that doesn't help to be a Commanders Action Network, supporter. You've signed up to get the alerts, but then you're not taking action on them. And we always want to know if there's a problem, if people aren't getting them. But I think, showing people at your chapter or department level when you have a meeting, how easy it is to, get the alert, click, read it and click submit. It does everything for you once you've signed up for it's really just so quick.
And then I don't mean to interrupt, but and then bring them to this page right here, make them go and show them that they can go back and do the ones that we've already submitted in the past. They don't have to wait for the new ones to come out.
Yep.
Sure.
Sorry, Cory, go ahead.
I just think that's a great idea in terms of being able to show that, especially as the new new person. Got to have some starting point, and doing that at our fall convention, doing some training like this, but actually showing them the numbers that and how we're processing that would be great.
So Jeanette, what state, Leslie, are you from?
North Dakota.
North Dakota. Okay. I don't know if
Hi,
Jeanette
Fred.
is on here, or Lisa, if we could send her what we sent to, it's just a couple months old. So you would get an idea. And again, it gives you the number of people who are signed up, the active users, and then how you did compared to other people within your that have similar sized departments.
That's great.
On taking
Thank you
action.
so much. That's
Sure.
That was for North Dakota?
Yep, North Dakota.
Hey, Joy or Joe,
Yes.
this is Paul Harmon. Listening to this, Joe, so if our congressmen or senators are not co-sponsoring or haven't sponsored it, is that when we should get with them and say, hey, this is this bill and you need to sign on to this bill?
Yeah, you can ask them to sponsor it, sure. Can't,
But on the
can't really tell them to, but you can.
Well, I don't mean tell them, but ask them.
I know.
No,
Yeah.
I'll probably tell them, but
Yeah, just, do it politely. Just say, hey, I see, Representative so-and-so isn't a member, or the senator or whatever is not a co-sponsor of this legislation. Love to get, love for you to be a co-sponsor on it. Davey has this resolution, and ask them to support. And just to make sure everybody knows, so if your member already supports the bill, when you send it, it will tell them thank you.
Right.
So you don't have to look up each action to double check, hey, I'm sending this action alert to them. It automatically knows its views in the system. If they are already a co-sponsor, they'll get a thank you note. Otherwise, they'll get the regular letter which says we urge you to become a co-sponsor.
Right.
Joy, this is Fred again. I think I've noticed where I went to submit and it actually changes the language if they've already co-sponsored the bill and says thank you. It starts the letter by saying thank you for sponsoring or co-sponsoring a bill. So you're not getting, hey, support this, and they find out they already have. So I think that was a great detail you guys did for that. But I like Leslie's, we're all competitive. And so I know there's membership reports and all of that stuff you can get if there's ever a chance. If we hire an extra person someday, that you can develop a little competition between the chapter. I think we're sorted by number of members or something like that, if I remember right. But
yeah, it's within the department.
I'd like to know that Nevada's beating North Dakota.
And again, if you're really interested, again, you could reach out to Jeanette, and maybe you can show them on there, Joe, at the top, how you can find About Us has our email addresses. The tab on the top, About Us, has should have each of our, you can contact us directly by just clicking on contacting us, and we'll ask Jeanette to forward you the last one that was done. And so
Make sure you email Peter. He loves it.
everybody send Peter an email today after the call. No, he'll kill us. All right.
But if there's no other questions or concerns, does anybody have anything else to bring up? I mean, these are all good things to talk about. We're going to have another meeting here in a couple of weeks. So if you come up with any questions, concerns, or ideas, or if you just want to share things with the group, we can bring it up then. For now, I think I'm just going to give you your time back. We're running, a little over right now. We gotta get on to our next little project. So Joy, I send it back to you.
All right, great. Thanks, Joe, for the overview on everything. And another thing you can do is go and you can also sign up for the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committee press releases. That's a really good way if you're really into, hey, knowing what's happening. And we try to give you briefings and updates on legislation in the House. They just moved a number of bills just past the House, and now they're over on the Senate side. So, the committees are active in their legislation and holding hearings and legislative, trying to build sort of a package of bills that they're hoping to consider this year. So we will do legislative updates throughout the year, as well as things sort of firm up a little bit more. But you can also sign up for those newsletters, and you'll get the press releases that come. If you're rather have those directly to be able to share with your members. Okay. All right. And last chance for questions. Again, we always appreciate you guys joining us, and big, important thing for you guys is if you hear about a legislative hearing that they're doing locally, and you need help, or they've reached out to DAV and they're asking for one of you to provide testimony, or your department, we always appreciate a heads up so we can let you know, and help you if need be, but provide you, some background information perhaps on the issue, even though they're usually focused on more local issues. But a number of you have been reaching out regularly on the claims sharks bills that are out there locally, making the rounds in the state legislatures, and we appreciate that. We kind of trying to keep an eye on how that's going. Or if there's just a piece of legislation you get an alert on or something, and you're more curious and need more information, or somebody's calling you and asking you for information on something, please use us as a resource. We'll get you to the right member on our team. We kind of have they all have different portfolios, and update you on any of that. So please don't hesitate to reach out if need be.
You got something, Al?
Yeah, I do have a question here. And before I do that, I want to thank Great House for being on. Thank you. It's very nice that you wanted to participate. And also give a shout out to J.R. Wilson, who just did and I hope I get the title right, stand down at the Delta out in California, which was very, very successful. And somewhere down the line, it would be nice to maybe share this to other BPTLs throughout the country and stuff. What are you doing out there? And finally to Fred. Fred, congratulations for joining us. If you don't know what I'm saying, I'll send you an email. I do have a question. The National Defense Authorization Act, what's the status?
Of which one? The House version or the Senate version?
Either one. The reason I'm bringing it up is I noticed on social media there were veteran service organizations running around to legislators that were saying this needs to be included. Have we done anything like that, or are we thinking about sending out some canned alerts on this needs to be included into the NDAA? Have we thought about doing something like that? I guess it's my question.
So Joe, he was
Well,
just up on the hill.
Yeah, so to answer your question broadly, right? So with this, I'm going to go back to the Major Richard Starr Act, all right? The language for the Major Richard Starr Act was suggested by Senator Blumenthal that he wanted that language to be an amendment in the NDAA. So we sent out a second can alert saying, hey, this could happen. We need you to send this information to your senators. So yes, we do that. But as for it actually being, it's only been recommended that it be attached to the NDAA. There's nothing, they've not voted on it yet. And that's in both chambers.
Yeah.
Was that your question?
Yeah, I didn't know what I noticed some of the other groups, one in particular had a fall conference that was running around and, having their members talk to legislators saying this needs to be included, and the Richard Starr Act was one of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we were, like, you're apparently doing it alone this time. So, and I'm glad that we did, and I forgot about the can alert. But I think it's something we might want to consider, particularly if we have more than one priority that we feel like needs to be in there, to think about sending out more can alerts on the NDAA.
Right. So generally what happens with the National Defense Authorization, as you can see, it's major priority is DoD related issues. but generally there are a few crossover issues and some veterans issues that get put in there. Usually the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committees, some of them are on both committees, and or there's something they really want to, like the Major Richard Starr Act, that they think they're going to need to put it in a very large vehicle like the National Defense Authorization Act, which is, you know, a huge, massive bill. So there are those things. The jurisdiction, though, is primarily focused on DoD related matters, and you know, versus veteran related. But there are always, like we do in our legislative victories for veterans, anything that's in the NDA that really impacts our membership, we try to include those provisions in there. And there have been some good ones over the last, you know, couple Congresses, the commissary, and some things that were around for a long time. So once in a while, you know, we get one through there. Unfortunately, some of the bigger things, you know, that gets taken out in conference, unfortunately, despite that it's being supported by the majority of the Congress, both on the House and Senate side, and, you know, supported by veterans and military service organizations, you know, that's a definite on the Major Richard Starr, but we, you know, definitely point taken on that, Al. If there's something really critical.
Again, yeah, it's the provisions, it's not the bill itself, but yes, there's important provisions, and we are doing it. So that was my question was it, and I want to compliment Joe on his excellent presentation. I thought it was a very nice review for many of us and an excellent introduction to the newer members. Finally, Joy, we only got a couple minutes here. When it's convenient, give me a call. I want to give you an update on our previous conversation. And there's a couple of other issues that we don't have time that I was thinking about bringing up. But when it's convenient, give me a call so I can give you some updates. I appreciate it.
Okay, I've got a call. We've got a call with the Hill right after this, but as soon as I'm done, I will follow up with you, Al. No problem. And I think we had one last question that came up in the chat. I have my first meeting next week, Department legislation, our resolutions. I'm not sure if that means, but Lisa sent out the disposition on all of the resolutions that were submitted by each department. So you could see if the resolutions that you submitted as a department, were they supported and adopted at national conventions. So I think that's what that might be referring to, but I think that's always good. You can ask your department adjutant, because they should have gotten that email, to make sure they mention that at your next meeting, because I think it's an important follow-up to know, hey, you know, the resolutions we submitted were adopted. So, and we appreciate that, because again, we had a record year of resolutions being submitted and adopted, and a record year for the number of departments that participated. And that's what, you know, Barry is really looking at, and us, of course. We just want everybody to participate, even if that means just submitting, you know, 1 or 2 resolutions is just fine. The more we have involved and that you're passing that on, that's an important part to be a part of that, of the resolutions. Process and adoption is really important, because again, we use those throughout the year when we're testifying, and every day we're using our resolutions. Every time we meet, to have a meeting on, can we support this bill or not? And there's a poison provision in there that's from one of our resolutions that says we oppose something, you know, we pull that out, and the same thing on the support side. So very key for us in our everyday work. Well, thank you again for joining us. And again, great presentation by Joe. I'm glad he was able to give the update. And next one will be an overview of the DAV all of our resource page and sort of really just take you on a tour of how to navigate that and utilize and download anything that you might need for a meeting or to brief people on and update people on at your chapter or department level. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. See you in a couple weeks.